Hello, my friends. Rob Roselli coming to you on, I guess we'd call it the initial showing of the Not Fix News Network live. Today being Tuesday, October the 18th, 2016. Time's going very quickly here. Things are unfolding very quickly. It's hard to keep up anymore. But anyway, website boxofsunglasses.com. That's one word. And on there, on the opening page, you'll find all the information, an introduction to the quote conspiracy, links to back to this channel live most Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on the Not Fix News Network, or NFNN. And archived shows are available on my YouTube channel of the same name, and links to that are also provided on the homepage of my website, boxofsunglasses.com. And don't forget the books. Pleased to meet you. Okay, my latest, a fictional conversation between a Lucifer character and an O'Brien character right out of Orwell's 1984. And really what it's describing, what it culminates in a sense, is this image of the beast, this multi-name scam, this mist, this phantom in the White House, who I will call Pharaoh Barry, for lack of a better name, as the Pharaoh in this modern day Egypt known as Mystery Babylon USA, and his Egyptian high priest handlers like Rockefeller, Rothschild, Soros, and the rest of them kind of guide him along and tutor him and tell him what to do, such as starting a nonsensical, completely psychopathic war in Syria with Russia, hence World War III. And events are unfolding, unfortunately, just as the way, as we've been discussing on the last several videos, and the line-by-line breakdown of Revelation 17 and 18. And if you wish to read about that, again, there's a Mystery Babylon page on my site. It's called Mystery Babylon USA. You go to the table of contents on boxofsunglasses.com, and you can read all about it. And also on the YouTube channel, the videos are there. They're dated. I have to tie in those videos with the dates. But several of the later ones in September went through Revelation 17, 18 line by line, and just to kind of rehash, basically what it says was, what I'm saying there is you're going to have an economic collapse of biblical proportions, followed by a very quick kind of fake peace treaty led by this image of the beast, this scam artist, Pharaoh Barry, okay, the son of Satan himself, okay, from his perch up there in the White House with the nations of the world. And then, First Thessalonians chapter 5, they shall be crying peace and safety. When they cry peace and safety, then utter destruction shall come on them all of a sudden, which jibes pretty much with my description of Revelation 17 and 18, and followed by this fake peace treaty. Then you're going to have it, the nuclear / EMP ambush of these very United States, as I've been describing throughout Revelation 17. The whore rides the beast, and the beast represents the current kingdoms of the world, as well as the culmination of the kingdoms of the world, as summarized in the Old Testament. Okay, Egypt, Babylon, Assyria, Greece, and Persia, and Rome, which was the beast system that was alive when John the Revelator was writing Revelation. And of course, the seventh beast I'm calling the Anglo-American establishment, or what I call the un-American genocidal complex, through which the entire world is controlled through the banking system, the Federal Reserve, the scam Federal Reserve System, and its octopus-like offspring, including the International Monetary Fund, or the IMF, or the Bank of International Settlements, and of course, all the multinational banks, the Goldman Sachs, the J.P. Morgans, Deutsche Bank, okay, etc., etc., and the banking system, parentheses, the banking system is on the verge, the European banking system and Deutsche Bank is on the verge of a calamitous collapse that will, of course, have an effect right here in the United States, hence the economic collapse as predicted. So things only go downhill from here, unfortunately. And let me say this, the most important thing you'll get out of this is God's Simple Salvation Plan, and that is available as a link on the top of the homepage of my site. Again, boxofsunglasses.com. And of course, you'll get the un-American genocidal complex is there, okay? Remember, the Georgia Guidestones, brought to us by our friend Robert Christian. The rose plus the cross, remember, representative of the 18th or the 6 plus 6 plus 6 degree of Freemasonry, okay, which sounds a lot like Revelation 13:8, to count or calculate the number of the beast, because that's exactly what it is, okay? So we have this image of the beast, Robert Christian, and I have a whole page, probably several books worth of information on our friend Robert Christian posted on my site. And there were several shows that were done on the identity of him, which I'll just come out and say it is Lucifer, okay, or the serpent, going all the way back to the Garden of Eden, which equates to the Egyptian god, so-called Hermes, Thoth, okay, or the Greek god Hermes, the Egyptian god Thoth, the Roman god Mercury, okay, the god of wisdom and travel, etc., etc., okay, who has a lot in common with the biblical Satan, who became Cain in the Old Testament, who became Judas in the New Testament, who I am saying in no uncertain terms is this image of the beast running this nation known as New Atlantis, to the Rosicrucians, okay, the Rosicrucians, rose plus the cross, okay, which were the Anglo-American intellectuals who were kind of the bridge between the mysterious group known as the Knights Templar and the British Royal Society, the Invisible College. Now we get into like the Vinci Code kind of stuff, which I don't necessarily want to get into right now, but anyway, those groups basically culminated in the British Roundtable groups, which gave us our very own Council on Foreign Relations, Bilderberg Group, Skull and Bones of the American Illuminati, okay, the Federal Reserve, what some people call the Eastern Establishment, what I call the Un-American Genocidal Complex. Okay, so now a very quick summary. This is a snapshot of the pure evil, okay, the Darwinian eugenics, Hitler inspiring, Hitler supporting evil that was spawned in the last, say, 200 years. And it's still very much here, okay? The Un-American Genocidal Complex still runs the show. And Queen Jezebel is their candidate. I don't necessarily believe that Queen Jezebel will be elected. She will beat Trump, and if Trump wins, they'll just shoot him, so he'll be out of the picture. So you're left with Queen Jezebel and this mysterious Tim Kaine, whatever this joker's name is. Okay, but I don't think we will get that far. Hussein, Obama, Sotaro, the Mist, the Phantom, Pharaoh Barry in the White House is their man. Okay, he is their number 44. Okay, he's the son of Satan. He's the Pharaoh. He's the image of the beast. He's the Horus. Okay, he's the guy, okay, who will lead us into the conflagration that takes place in Revelation 17 and 18, and it's just that simple, okay? And also don't forget, also available, They Live, Great Society of the Undead, okay? And don't forget the capitalist Pyramid of Giza right here. For those of you that think this is some kind of kooky conspiracy theory, you pretty much look at the capitalist Pyramid of Giza as it mocks you every day with its illuminated all-seeing eye of Apollo, Osiris / Nimrod, okay, being the original beast, okay, or the original beast kingdom, the original one world kingdom, way back there in Genesis chapter 11. So these genocidal psychopathic maniacs are looking to bring back the kingdom of Nimrod, of course, minus 6.5 billion people per the anti-10 commandments of the Georgia Guidestones, okay, and as they look to usher in their new age of enlightenment, again, minus 90% of the world's population, which explains this psychopathic drive for World War III. In other words, they want the war. This is pure evil, okay, and on a future broadcast, I think it's probably appropriate to go through the occult conspiracy link on my site. Perhaps we'll start that on that next show, okay, where I discuss 3 world wars. And for those of you that may not know, there have only been 2 world wars, okay, and we are about to have the 3rd one in a not too distant future. So anyway, that's that. So basically, where we left off on the last discussion on Revelation 17:18 was Revelation verses 4 through 8, as I have it broken down. Now, in here in Revelation 18:4 through 8, God is begging people, okay, he's saying, come out of her, my people, therefore her plague shall come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire, for strong is the Lord God who judgeth her. So in other words, I'm not, as I've discussed, oh, by the way, it's probably, before I forget, for those new listeners to the Not Fixed News Network, there's three basic principles that I try to adhere to on a show that make it a lot, just to kind of understand where I'm coming from. Number one is the Bible is the infallible word of God, and there is no negotiating that. Okay, that's just, it's an all or nothing proposition. There's no negotiating. There's no middle ground, and that's just the way it is. Okay. Number two is the Israel. Okay, national Israel or physical Israel are not God's chosen people. Okay, at one time they were God's chosen people in the Old Testament, and I'm going to say 75% of the Old Testament is God basically disparaging his chosen people for being, spiritual and religious whores. Okay, spiritually fornicating with the Canaanites, the Egyptians, the Philistines, the Assyrians, or the nations around them who worshipped, things like the sun god Baal, or who equates to the Philistine sun god Dagon, who equivalents to the aforementioned Osiris, Apollo, and Nimrod. Okay, again, whose all-seeing eye appears above the capitalist pyramid on the back of your Federal Reserve note. Okay, so anyway, and then finally, when Jesus, the Word, Son of God, the Word of God in the flesh, per John chapter 1, comes, he makes a new covenant, a new testament with the non-Jews, because the Jews chose to reject him. And I love these guys. I was watching a show the other night, and one guy who I actually have some respect for, and I have a lot less respect for him now. I'm putting out a CD, and I'm really not used to say the guy's name, but I was watching, Trinity Broadcasting Network or whatever it was, and he's got a CD out there, and, does the church, talking about this replacement theology, does the church, the modern day Christian church, replace Israel as God's chosen people? And I just can't believe that some of these people are serious. Okay, in John chapter 8, what part of, when Jesus is talking to the Jews and the Pharisees, what part of, you are of your father the devil, is open to discussion. Do these people not understand? Or in Matthew 23, and Jesus says, calls the Pharisees, children of hell. And how can you escape the damnation of hell in a generation of vipers? Okay, where's the debate in that? Where's the? I don't get it. Where is the? What's the argument there? Of course the Jews are. They reject, and Jesus says, I tried to gather you as a mother or a chick tries to gather, or a hen tries to gather chicks, or whatever language he uses there. And he says you would not be gathered. What? I'm just trying to really scratch my head on what part of your father the devil are these people missing? And of course, the Apostle Paul, who wrote most of the New Testament, okay, he had to be extricated from the Jewish religion. That's the Damascus Road moment, and that's even the general saying, back there in Acts chapter 9. Okay, he had to be separated from the Jewish religion and the Pharisees, of which he was one of the most dedicated and one of the most, say, vitriolic of the Pharisees. The guy was basically a thug, okay, a killer of the nascent Church of God, or the Christians in the world. Okay, he was persecuting these guys. The Apostle Stephen in Acts chapter 7, and they stoned him to death, and there was Paul kind of running the whole show. And then after his conversion, and he just spends the rest of the book of Acts and really most of the New Testament just lambasting God's so-called chosen people. Now Jesus himself, said, when he, at the Last Supper, says, this wine and this bread is a symbol of my new covenant with you, with the apostles. Okay? And then Jews came and arrested him, and Judas Iscariot was indwelled by Satan. Okay, and that's in John, 12 and 13. Okay, and in Matthew 26. And then, and then after he's indwelled by Satan, and he goes and makes a deal with the Pharisees. So essentially what that's saying is, the God's so-called chosen people are making a deal with Satan himself to kill the Son of God. And this is God's chosen people. I mean, that needs to be argued. That's even a question. But anyway, I find a lot of times these are the same morons that take, Revelation literally, which is why why a lot of these people are still, while we're on the verge of an economic collapse of biblical proportions in World War III with Russia, this is why a lot of these morons are still looking at Jerusalem and, waiting around with their thumbs up their hind quarters, waiting around for some temple to get rebuilt in Jerusalem and some comic book antichrist to occupy it. It's just stupid. Okay, and it's worse than stupid. It's misleading. Okay, a lot of very good people, evangelical Christians in this nation are being misled by these bozos. Okay, these clowns. I don't know what else to say, and I'm being generous. Okay, when I say this. Okay, so anyway, that's principle number 2, and principle number 3 is that segues into what we're discussing now, is that there's no doubt that the mystery Babylon described in Revelation 17 is the United States. There's no doubt. There's no arguing that. Okay, and I've been saying this for I don't know, 5 years on now, and the way current events are unfolding, that's just the way it is. Okay, there ain't gonna be no rebuilt temple. There ain't gonna be no comic book antichrist. There ain't gonna be no 2 witnesses running around Jerusalem, throwing thunderbolts and shooting people with flamethrowers. Okay, and some stupid, rapture. That's another argument, the pre-tribulation, the post-tribulation rapture. Ain't gonna happen. Okay, things are gonna get rough for everybody, even the Christians. Okay, things are gonna get really rough. Okay, and then when the end comes, the 6th seal in Revelation, that's it. Okay, if you go back to Matthew, chapter 11. Okay, or excuse me, Matthew chapter 12, and in Matthew, and later on in Matthew 16, Jesus tells the Pharisees, again, God's chosen people, he calls them a wicked and adulterous generation, shall seeketh after a sign, but none shall be given to it except the sign of the prophet Jonah. Okay, so that's it. Okay, in 3 days and 3 nights, shall the Son of Man be in the belly of the earth. And I don't want to go off on that tangent, how you jibe 3 days and 3 nights, and Jesus in other places says he will arise on the 3rd day. That's a whole other thing. I see these so-called biblical scholars, just tripping over themselves with nonsense and stupidity, trying to reconcile, the 3rd day with 3 days and 3 nights. And you look like an idiot when you try to interpret the Bible literally, is what I'm getting at. Okay, and that's where a lot of these guys run into trouble. But anyway, so there ain't going to be no rapture. Okay, think about it. I mean, think about how obvious that would be. If these, I don't know, 1 billion people got taken off the earth, and the comic book antichrist showed up in Jerusalem, and all this nonsense started happening. I mean, wouldn't that be a pretty obvious sign? Okay, and that happened for 7 years. Okay, that went on for 7 years. It just doesn't happen. It's just not going to happen like that. Okay, once Jesus reveals himself for the 2nd time. Okay, at the end of Matthew 23, he says, "Ye shall not see me again till you see me coming in power and great glory." And he's talking to the Jewish people. Then he says, "Your house is left unto you desolate. Okay, and you shall not see me again." So in other words, the next time you see him, it's the 6th seal of Revelation. Okay, it's the earthquake. It's everybody that's left on earth. Okay, begging to be, for the mountains, begging to be killed because they see God coming from the heavens. Okay, looking to exact his revenge. That goes way back to the Garden of Eden. Okay, that's a one-time event. It's not going to stretch out over 7 years. And, I believe, the best, and I'm really going off on a tangent right now, but I'll just kind of follow the string and get back to Revelation chapter 18. But what is going to happen is that you're going to have a 5-month tribulation period. These people that are still left, okay, that's your Sodom and Gomorrah moment, okay. That's your eternal fire right there, and then that's it, okay. And then those people are gone, okay. There's nothing left, okay. Then they're, if you go back in the book of Jude, eternal darkness and torment is reserved for them forever. In Revelation 13, the smoke of their torment shall arise up forever and ever. So, what happened? Where did you get smoke from? Well, smoke is after the fire, okay? So when God gets his eternal revenge for what I believe is a 5-month period, okay, and I get that from Revelation 9. I don't necessarily want to go off on that tangent right now, but that's it, okay? In the book of Jude, he talks about this is, Sodom and Gomorrah were an example of eternal fire. Now, obviously, Sodom and Gomorrah was, a night of fireballs and fire and brimstone, and then it was gone. So what the eternal fire is, it's God, he's going to fire and brimstone for those people that are left on earth, and the fallen angels and everybody else that's tried to rebel against him, both human and non-human. And then that's it. Okay, the only thing those people will have left is the memories for eternity. Okay, and that's the improper interpretation. Okay, it's not going to be, these descriptions of hell. You hear these descriptions. Some the devil running along with a pitchfork and flames everywhere and screaming and all this. It's just a place of darkness. Okay, so in other words, the people that have chosen to reject God, to consciously reject God, which is your Darwinists, your eugenicists. Unfortunately, many people that will probably laugh at this video, they're going to get what they wanted. Okay, just back like in 1 Samuel chapter 8, and the Jews, again, God's chosen people are looking for a human king, just like the nations surrounding them. And God's saying, well, I'm your king. And they rejected him. And God gives in and says, all right, they can have a king. All right. But they're not really. And he tells Samuel, and Samuel's complaining, saying, these people are really, these people have a real attitude problem. And God tells Samuel, he says, the problem really isn't with you. Okay, the problem is with me. Okay. So in other words, God, and he grants them, they have King Saul, and you have the divided kingdom, Israel, and 10 tribes in the north and Judah, and 2 tribes in the south, and you have endless wars and civil wars and destructions from the surrounding nations, from Assyria, from Babylon, okay, the 70 years in Babylon, and then the Romans come in later, after that, etc., etc. So the point is that God's going to give these people what they want, okay, which is just eternity, okay, of just nothingness, okay. Colossians chapter 1, God's the creator of everything, invisible and visible, principalities, powers, everything, okay, that's Colossians chapter 1. And then, so nothing's ever going to be destroyed. It's just, if you're Queen Jezebel, you're going to have eternity to just be by yourself. I mean, you want to worship self, which a lot of people do, which is really rebellion against God. You're going to get your wish. Okay, this is kind of what God's getting at. Come out of her, my people, in Revelation 18. Okay, the United States is I'm saying, is the worst offender in world history. Okay, next to God's chosen people. Okay, it's probably neck and neck. Okay. The conspiracy, the quote conspiracy that originated in the Garden of Eden has culminated right here, as we've been discussing in these 2 chapters of Revelation, right here in Mystery Babylon, which is the United States. I mean, can it be any more obvious? All right, we have right here, I mean, our entire monetary system, our leaders, our occult overlords, and I'm not talking about these imbeciles in the White House. All right, I'm talking about our real leaders, okay, the guys that run this, openly worship Nimrod consciously, okay, and we're all following along, or we have been. But I'm here to tell you, I mean, God is in Revelation 18. People have been doing unknowingly, and we can't help it. I mean, obviously we have to live in the system, with the world system, just like the apostles and the believers in the book of Acts. But at the same time, you can't worship this system. Right? You can't worship the image of the beast, and there are people that do that. Okay, but the time is getting pretty close here, where people are going to have to choose. Okay, things are getting out of hand. Okay, with all the technology and everything that's coming online and everything that's being, the elites are losing control. Okay, the Anglo-American establishment. Okay, the nations that they created, the monsters they created, Putin and the Chinese and all these other nations. Okay, are getting to a point where they're starting to hate the whore. Okay, do you get it? This is the beast. The woman, the whore, rides the beast. The beast is getting angry. The beast hates the whore. The beast will burn her with fire. Her destruction will come in an hour. Okay, this is happening as we speak. This is happening worldwide. Okay, the world has had enough of the United States. Okay, and its debt-based scam, its international loan sharking operation known as the International Monetary Fund and its friends at the Federal Reserve. Okay, the gold thieves at the Federal Reserve. Okay, stealing all the world's gold. Okay, manipulating the gold supply of the world. Okay, the wars, the psychopathic wars all over the world. Okay, Iraq, Afghanistan, now Yemen, Libya is just a place now. It's a territory. It's a vacuum. And not, they took out Gaddafi. Not that Gaddafi was anything great, although it seemed like he was trying to have his his comeback or his Damascus Road moment, just like Nebuchadnezzar. Okay, back there in the book of Daniel. Okay, the dictator, the thug Nebuchadnezzar had a change of heart after speaking to Daniel. Okay, which is a lot more than we can say for God's so-called chosen people. All right. Even Nineveh, okay, the Assyrian Empire, okay, one of the most evil empires in world history, okay, in the book of Jonah, for a time, dressed in sackcloth and ashes, okay, and begged for forgiveness from God, okay, as a nation, okay, that didn't last, but that's another story. But the point is that there is always room for a turnaround. But anyway, here comes the United States, and wars. The chosen people. What's the word that these neocon maniacs, these Fox News imbeciles use? The Rush Limbaughs. What's the not the chosen people, but the exceptional people? I mean, who the hell are we? Okay, just the article I read about this Life Legal Defense Foundation, a little story I read about the 20-week-old live baby, 20 weeks old, and they ripped its face off and sold its brains for $160. Okay. Now we're going to go around and we're going to criticize the world for violating human rights. We're the arbiters of morality. The world hates us. Okay, and we're the whore. We hoard ourselves and let this image of the beast, this son of Satan, this multi-name scam into the White House. And I got news for people. He ain't leaving. Okay, he ain't leaving. Okay. If Trump gets, overcomes the hump of, rigged voting machines and a disgusting lapdog, disgraceful press, okay, bootlicking press, a Pravda, if he overcomes all that, it doesn't matter, which he won't. Queen Jezebel ain't getting in there either, as I said, okay. Pharaoh Barry's the man. Okay, and speaking of that, just as an offshoot, on the home page of my site, I have a Mystery Babylon ebook, which is a little bit more of a general overview, okay, of the United States as Mystery Babylon. In section 3 of that ebook, I go into the numerology and the occultism of Pharaoh Barry, okay, and perhaps I've discussed that in past. Maybe we can dedicate a show to that alone, okay. But the elites, the Rockefeller, Rothschild, devil-worshipping elites, have way too much invested in their new Atlantis, which is Mystery Babylon, or the United States, in this image of the beast, Pharaoh Barry, okay, the Egyptian high priest, David Rockefeller and friends. This is it. Obama's it. All right, Pharaoh Barry, he's it. Okay. So I suggest people start getting used to that fact. Okay. So that's Revelation. Just a quick review of 4 to 8. But the most important thing, again, is come out of her, my people, that you be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and God hath remembered her iniquities. Okay, again, that's just like the Tower of Babel. Okay, her sins have reached unto heaven. Now, does that mean that there's some kind of physical connection between earth and heaven? No. Does it mean the Tower of Babel, when they're trying to reach heaven, does it mean that these were stupid people and they're trying to build a tower so high that they were trying to build it millions of miles high to get to something? No. Okay, it's a figurative sense. They're trying to create, in this case, a heaven on earth. Okay, or in this case, the sins have reached unto heaven. That's pretty bad. All right, that's pretty bad. Then she has glorified herself. She has lived deliciously, so much torment and gar. I sit a queen and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. Now that goes way back to Isaiah 47. Okay, of course the queen says, I sit a queen, I am no widow. We're talking about the female compatriot, or the wife, sister, mother of Osiris, Apollo, Nimrod, known as the Greek goddess Isis, okay, or the Egyptian goddess Isis, the Babylonian, moon goddess Ishtar, okay, Sumerian Inanna, okay, Diana, Artemis, okay, Liberty or Libertas, okay, which just so happens to be on top of the Capitol Dome in Washington D.C., and out in the out there in Washington D.C. you got this 6,660-inch or 555-foot tall phallus, symbol of Osiris, right in front of the womb of the Capitol Dome, with the Libertas, the goddess figure, okay, the queen or the widow, Revelation 17, sitting right there in Washington D.C. So, and of course you have Lady Liberty, okay, another manifestation of the goddess Columbia, or Isis, or Libertas, or Diana, whatever you want to call her. Basically, it's this widow described here in Revelation 18. So you tell me, who's the whore of Babylon? Okay, some sorry, leftover remnants, some rubble in the middle of the Iraqi desert. Okay, the literal Babylon, as some of these so-called experts want to say. Okay, Saudi Arabia. Okay, or even the Catholic Church. Who's Mystery Babylon? Okay, who started out as a Christian nation with rights endowed by our Creator, okay, the greatest nation in the history of the world, and has done a complete 180, and now is at a point where we rip a baby's face off and sell its brains for $160. And then Pharaoh, this half-white scam artist, this con man, this mist, Pharaoh Barry, turns around and says anybody that opposes abortion is now considered a domestic extremist. So imagine that. If you don't like the idea that we sell body parts of live babies for $100, you're a domestic extremist. So this is kind of what God's getting at. Okay, come out of her, my people. There's no national comeback. There's no comeback from this. Okay, if you go back to, I think it's 2 Kings, say 20 through 23. Okay, you had most of the Israeli kings in Judah were evil. Okay, you had this Manasseh. Okay, was so evil and deplorable. Okay, if you go back, several kings down the road, and God is still so pissed off at Israel over Manasseh that he's still going to punish Israel, even though they had some little bit of comebacks with, I think it was Josiah. Okay, you had Hezekiah in there. Okay, so it's just like now, you think Trump and maybe have a little bit of a comeback with Trump, if he wins, which he won't, as I just said, but that ain't nearly enough. Okay, not from the standard of the Old and the New Testament. All right. And then if we go down to now we're going to 18:9 to 13, and the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her. Okay, those that got in on the Federal Reserve scam system, the gravy train. Okay, shall bewail her and lament for her when they see the smoke of her burning, stand afar off for the fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, parentheses, New York City, okay, and the United States in general. For in 1 hour is thy judgment come, and the merchants of the earth shall seep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise anymore. Okay, remember the United States buying all this slave labor crap from all over the world, okay, with our with our debt instruments, our endless money printing, inflation scam Federal Reserve notes, with the all-seeing eye of Nimrod on the back staring at us. Okay, so nobody's buying their merchandise anymore. Okay, so the merchandise of gold and silver and precious stones, the pearls, fine linen, purple and silk, scarlet, wood, vessels of ivory, manners of vessels, brass, wood, iron, marble, cinnamon, odors, ointment, frankincense, wine and oil, horses, chariots, slaves. And I find it very interesting, okay, in verse 13, and souls of men, okay. So in other words, with our evolution and our scam science and all our nonsense, okay, our abortion, our eugenics, okay, our Hitler espousing, our Hitler inducing eugenics, okay, evolution, okay, we've the establishment, okay, in their quest for world power, where they need to eviscerate God and the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, because with God they don't really rule, okay. They fill in the vacuum, okay, and in the meantime, they've captured souls of humans, of many people who have fallen for this claptrap known as evolution and the like, okay, separation of church and state, okay. So that's what's being trapped here. And then also, notice there's some lamenting here. So to me, what this is saying, okay, the world will hate the whore, but when this goes down, okay, think about 9/11, just to the nth degree, okay. When this goes down, okay, there will be people standing back, okay, from other nations looking what just happened, okay. The United States, being burned with fire, i.e. nuclear attack in 1 hour, and sitting there and saying, holy blank, look what just happened. Okay, so the reality of what just happened is going to hit them, and this is what I am inferring from these verses 9 to 13, and also a little bit of sadness, because obviously, if the entire nation has been eviscerated, there's no one going to buy their stuff anymore. So they're sad because their profits have dried up. And then we move on to verses 14 and 19. And the fruits that thy soul lusted after are departed from me, and all things that were dainty and godly are departed from me, and thou shalt find them no more at all. Okay. Now if you read Joel, the Old Testament prophet Joel, okay, he loses in many of the Old Testament books, okay, Micah, Amos, the so-called minor prophets. But anyway, Joel chapter 1, your corn is withered, your oil is dried up, okay, and the wine, the oil languisheth, okay, languishes, and the wine is dried up. Okay, that's in Joel chapter 1. Now, corn, oil, and wine just so happens to be the three of the main symbols in Freemasonry. Okay, corn symbolizing, nature and harvest and the dead sun god, Osiris, Apollo, Nimrod, the dead beast. Okay, oil, okay, symbolizes, the divine spark or this divine fire, or let me see if I can find my little Baphomet picture in here. But the oil, of course you need oil for fire. Okay. By the way, there's Farrell Barry, 2008 Democratic National Convention, standing between the columns of Jacob and Boaz, Isis and Osiris. Okay. Male and female combined. There's the son of Satan. But anyway, getting back to the oil here, let me see if I can find it here. Getting back to Baphomet. Oh, here it is. Okay, if you can see this. Okay, there's our Baphomet, our horned god, or this sun god Pan, or Baal, okay, who ties back to Osiris and Nimrod. But notice the little flame on top of his head there. Okay, so that's the oil. Okay, the oil gives you the flame. Okay, as above, so below. Da Vinci Code. Hermes, the Greek god Hermes, Thoth, Mercury. But anyway, corn, oil, the flame. Okay, and the wine, symbolic of the revelry and debauchery and the partying of, one of Baphomet's close relatives, known as the, Pan. Okay, where we get panic and pandemonium from. Okay, but wine is that's their version of wine. Okay, so in Isaiah chapter 5, when God says, woe to those that drink wine and wake up early to drink wine and revelry. Okay, you go through the 6 woes of Isaiah chapter 5. 2 of them have directly to do with wine. Okay, so this is what's really what's at play here. Okay, so these are the symbols. Okay, that's really, again, and what's this nation run by? But offshoots of the groups of Freemasons. Again, the Rosicrucians, the Knights Templar. Okay, the Illuminati, the Skull and Bones, etc., etc. Okay, and this is thoroughly discussed. I'm going off on a tangent again, but again, the numerology of abomination. That's part of the Mystery Babylon ebook available on my site, the homepage, boxofsunglasses.com. But anyway, this is what this is all culminating in. Okay, and we're going to get to this. We're going to circle back around to this in a moment. But remember, okay, the key is to remember here is that we are the Mystery Babylon, and this just keeps reinforcing this concept. Okay, now going on to Revelation 14. Okay, and the fruits that thy soul lusted after departed from thee. All things that were dainty and godly are departed from thee. Thou shalt have no more in all. Okay, and this is what I was getting at. Okay, this departing. Okay, this taking away of all this. Corn, oil, and wine. The symbols. As in per Joel chapter 1. That's really what's at play here, and that's kind of why I went on that little tangent right there. Okay. Then the merchants of these things which were made rich by her shall stand afar off in fear of her torment, weeping and wailing, and saying, Alas, alas, the great city that was clothed in fine line and purple and scarlet and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, and for in 1 hour so great riches has come to naught. And every shipmaster and all the company and ships and sailors and as many as trade by sea stood afar off and cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, What city is like unto this great city? And they cast dust on their heads and cried, weeping and wailing, saying, Alas, alas, that great city wherein were made rich all that had ships in the sea by reason of her costliness. For in 1 hour she is made desolate. Okay, now I don't know if that's necessarily a literal hour, but this is one of the few places where I'm going to say it's close. Okay, that 1 hour. Okay, that's it's going to happen, and it's going to happen fast. Okay, the setup is happening right now. Okay, as Russia and China surround the United States with, sub-launched ICBMs and other weapons. Okay, while, the missed Farrell Barry worries about dudes getting into the girl's bathroom. Okay, so think about that. Okay, just stop and think about that for a second. Okay, the United States economy is on the verge of a calamitous collapse. The world is dumping our bonds on the open market. Russia and China are ratcheting up the war drums, beating on the war drums because of all our hypocrisy, and we're initiating this all, with wars in Syria, and sticking our nose in business all over the world. Okay, all this is going on, and what's Farrell Barry worried about? He's playing golf in transgender bathrooms. Okay. So the greatest nation in the history of the world, and I alluded to this back in the beginning of this link, founded on the gospel of Jesus Christ, to quote, founder, and lesser known founder Patrick Henry, okay, of Virginia, to quote him, okay, is reduced to a nation that has a guy, a scam artist that complete, the son of Satan, Farrell Barry, in the face of all the problems that we're dealing with, is worried about transgender rights and transgender in the military. Okay, so think about that. Okay, think about that. And again, this language in 14 to 19, it seems that, the people that are witnessing this are basically standing back and saying, they say, yeah, before it says they shall hate the whore, and, those feelings are still there. But when they see the culmination of what's going to happen, okay, they're shocked. They're shocked by it all, okay. Picture Hiroshima or Nagasaki times 10 or 100, all right. And then it goes on to say, rejoice over her, thou heaven, in the holy apostles and prophets, for God hath avenged you on her. This alludes back to the fifth seal of Revelation, okay, where the dead saints of the Old Testament are begging God, when are you going to take revenge for our blood? And, white robes were given unto every one of them, okay. And this, I have no doubt, are the believers, the Joshuas, the Jeremiahs, the Isaiahs, etc. of the Old Testament, begging for revenge, because these people were harassed, tortured, and killed for speaking the word of God, okay. Ye holy apostles and prophets, plus the Apostle Paul and many of the New Testament prophets, okay. And I don't want to go off into a whole discussion on the fifth seal right now, but this is what's at play here, okay. For God hath avenged you on her. And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and cast it into the sea, saying, thus with violence shall the great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. Okay? And the voice of harpers and musicians and of pipers and trumpeters. Okay, let's stop right there. Okay, so this is, remember we talked about corn, oil, and wine a few minutes ago. Now wine, and what's associated with the revelry of wine in honor of the, the god Pan, or Pandemonium, or Baphomet, who I just showed you, or the horned god, etc., etc. Okay? Pan, or Apollo even, okay, was the god of music. That was one of his characteristics, okay. So that's what's at play here, okay. And again, this goes back to, Isaiah chapter 5 off the top of my head, or Joel chapter 1 are the two best chapters I can think in the Old Testament that allude to this language. So that's what God's talking about here. And then it goes on to say, no craftsman of whatever craft he be shall be found any more in thee. Okay. Now think about that. Now craft, what is that craft? What is that? That's Freemasonry. Okay, as they seek to build the house dedicated to their God, okay, the St. John's the Divine Cathedral, okay, the Knights Templar inspired St. John's the Cathedral right here on Manhattan's Upper West Side with its capitalist pyramid on top, brought to us by the same crowd that gave us this, by the way, J.P. Morgan and friends, paid to have this thing built, okay, around 100 years ago, that gave us this, okay, looking to build their house, their new age Egyptian pyramid of what they consider to be their heaven, which is the heaven of Lucifer, okay, going all the way back to the Garden of Eden, okay. So when I say these people are devil worshippers and this sort of thing, I'm not saying that to be funny, all right, or be cute, or to sound dramatic or for effect. I really mean that. These people worship Satan, okay? And this is the language. When you say craftsmen, the Freemasons, the way they got their name, okay, the original Freemasons was because they were Masons. They built cathedrals, okay? Then you had what's called speculative Freemasons, okay? And these were guys, who secret societies and this sort of thing, who had nowhere else to go. The governments, the Catholic Church were harassing them, so they went and they joined these guilds of Freemasons, but they weren't really skilled builders. They were trying to build a spiritual temple of their believers. Okay, 1 Corinthians, chapter 6 and chapter 3 and chapter 10. Know ye not that ye are the temple of God? Okay, talking about the believers in Jesus. Okay, parentheses. This is why these Israel First bozos with their stupid stone temple in Jerusalem are so wrong. Okay, the language of the New Testament, the Apostle Paul is very clear on what the New Age, or the New Testament temple really is. But anyway, so if they're doing that, then the Freemasons are trying to build their temple. Okay, remember the stone that the builders rejected has become the head of the stone. If you go back, Psalm 118 and Matthew 21, the stone that the builders rejected, Okay, now if they rejected the stone, that means they accepted another stone. Okay, what stone did they accept? This. This is all very simple. Okay, I guess is what I'm saying. And obviously, you got to do a lot of reading, and and I invest the time and I read and I corroborate and I check things out, and you can never learn. Okay, and I'm not saying I'm perfect, but when you just open your mind and read it in the plain language and stop listening to these imbeciles, it all becomes very simple. Okay. Remember my 3 principles we discussed before, but this is exactly what this is saying. Okay, no craftsmen, no Freemasons, no stone builders. Okay, I don't know how much more clear it can be. Okay, no craftsmen, and the sound of a millstone shall be heard no more at all in thee, which isn't really good. And the light of a candle shall shine no more at all in thee, and the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee. And this is very interesting. Okay. That language right there is very interesting. Okay, the bride and the bridegroom. Now, some people will interpret that, that's God. The church is the bride. Remember the Revelation. I think it's Revelation 21, and Jesus says, the church or the body of believers is presented as a chaste virgin or a bride to their husband, which is Jesus himself. Okay, and many times, if you go back to the book of Hosea, for example, again, one of those so-called minor prophets near the end of the Old Testament, God makes this analogy of, him being the husband and the believers, his chosen people, being his bride. Okay, and if you read Matthew chapter 9, this language of a wedding and a bride is alluded to again. So, you can read those chapters, on your own time and just kind of corroborate what this is saying. But I believe it's talking about the wedding of, this is going to be a little bit of a tangent, but it's talking about the wedding of, I believe, Robert Christian or Christian Rosenkreutz. Okay, now, just one of the legends surrounding this guy. Okay, there was 3 books written at the beginning of the English Enlightenment around the early 1600s, and one of these books was called The Chemical Wedding of Christian Rosenkreutz, okay, or Robert Christian or Christian Rose Cross, okay, and the chemical, the alchemy, alchemy, of course, is the ancient study, trying to turn base metals into gold, and it's kind of a weird kind of mixture of philosophy and science. And a lot of principles of chemistry came out of alchemy, by the way. Okay, a lot of legitimate experiments, for example, the Chinese invention of gunpowder, and many of modern day chemistry comes from this kind of confusing, kind of mystical, shady science / philosophy known as alchemy. But anyway, this is what many of the thinkers were trying to create, a golden society. Okay, a new dawn, a new age, the dawning of the age of Aquarius, okay, that sort of thing, was really what's at play here. Okay, they were trying to create a golden society, a new Atlantis. Okay, and who was going to lead them into this new age? But Christian Rosenkreutz. Okay, so he's the image of the beast. Okay, or the false prophet. And who's he trying to marry? Who's his bride? Now remember, now you have the New Testament believers being the bride of Christ, Matthew chapter 9, etc. So Satan, who tries to rip off everything in the Bible, he also has a bride. Now who's his bride? But the summation of the non-believers. Okay, your Rockefeller, Rothschild elites and everybody underneath them. Okay, that Satan has a bride too. Okay, and this is what's being alluded to here. Okay, the light of a candle shall shine no more at all in thee, and the voice of the bride and the bridegroom. So that's your chemical wedding. Okay, that's your of Christian Rosenkreutz. Okay, that's what that book is alluding to, is this marriage of the male and the female. Okay, Jacob and Boaz, the 2 columns of Freemasonry. Okay. Now, this is what's being alluded to here, okay? You have the male, Isis and Osiris, and in the middle, you have the son of God or the Pharaoh, Okay. Let me see if I can find another. I know I had another example of it in here. Other Freemason columns might be in the other right here. Okay, here it is. Here's your male and your female. Here's your chemical wedding. Here's your, this is what's the language of being alluded to in Revelation 18:20 to 24. You got your male, okay, your sun, Osiris, Luna, female, and Isis, male, female. And in the middle, you have, Lucifer, the all-seeing eye. Where have we seen that before? Okay, the all-seeing eye. Okay, and of course the pentagram. Okay, where have we seen that before? Remember, we showed you back on that. Okay, and it also shows up. That's representative of this third eye, or this little serpent here between the eyes of Pharaoh. Okay, so you can see where all this stuff ties together. Okay, so again, for these imbeciles that want to say that the Babylon, the mystery Babylon, is some rubble over in the middle of the desert in Iraq. More power to you. I'm telling you, don't follow these Pied Pipers, these imbeciles, these fools. The language here is very clear. Okay, it's something much bigger than that. But that's what this language is alluding to. And also, this might be a little bit complicated, but in the Robert Christian links, I don't remember which one even is at the top of my head right now. It talks about one legend that's associated with this guy. And again, as I'm gonna go off on that whole subject right now, but this Robert Christian character, okay, the way he bounces off between history and legend and back and forth through history and over time is really quite mysterious. Okay, and what I've done in that link is I've conglomerated multiple authors and historians and conspiracy theorists. Some of them say he's only a legend, and some say he was a real person of history. Okay, so you can't nail this guy down. I mean, literally. Okay, his life, whether he lived at all is open to question, and when he lived is open to question. Okay, and I'll just leave it at that. But one of the legends associated with him is that, he was buried. Okay, he died in 1378. He was born in 1378. He lived 106 years. Okay, which means he died in 1484. Then he arose again. His body was discovered with a candle in it in 1604. Okay, and whether that's true or not, I really don't know. Okay, some people say it's true, and some people say it's not. Okay, but that's the language. Okay, that's this candle. Okay, that's this light of enlightenment. That's what's being alluded to here. Okay, at the end of Revelation 18. Okay, so these people that worship Robert Christian, or rose in, the rose plus the cross, or the Occident, the West, the Occidental, okay, or in the Columbia, or the sun rising in the East, okay, or Columbia, or the female. Now, where did Obama go to school? Supposedly, although there's no records of him ever being anywhere. Occidental and Columbia, okay. Hopefully this is starting to sink in, okay. But that's this language here, okay. And I don't know, I think I've said enough on that, okay. And the voice of, and for thy merchants were the great men of the earth, for thy sorceries. For by thy sorceries were all nations deceived, and in her was found the blood of prophets and of saints, and of all that were slain upon the earth. So in other words, every evil kingdom of the world, remember we went through the 7 kingdoms, and the 8th that, that was and was not, and is yet to be, okay, which I believe is Nimrod, okay, ancient Babylon, the original, okay, was not, okay, then, Babylon, and now it's going to rise again, and was, and will be, okay. The reincarnated Nimrod, or Osiris, is right here. All right. I don't want to go off, and not that I know a lot about that, but if you're really interested in what that means, okay, in a more physical sense, Steve Quayle, you can Google Steve Quayle or stevequayle.com. You can read a lot more about that kind of thing. And I don't want to sit here and pretend I know, the guy's done his homework, but for a more physical description, or to kind of, to answer your curiosity, okay, on this eighth beast, that's the kind of, you can kind of look at that research. And I have no connections to him. He doesn't know who I am or whatever. I'm just saying, if you're interested, then that's, you can get more information on that sort of thing, on what's going on, okay, right now as we speak. Okay, as far as that goes, as far as this reincarnation of the beast Nimrod. Okay, and I'll just caution you, it's not pretty. All right, so this is getting serious, I guess is what I'm saying. Okay, but anyway, in her was found the blood of prophets and of saints and of all that were slain upon the earth. So, that's going back not just to the current, but that's all the world history. So in other words, God is saying that I'm going to take revenge on this entity known as Mystery Babylon. And he's saying that all the blood spilled on the earth and the history of the earth is kind of culminated in her. Okay? And the United States is a warmongering nation, by the way. I mean, just as I've documented in the Un-American Genocidal Complex, I mean, I talk about Hitler, it focuses on Hitler, it's just kind of a snapshot, but we, with our evolution, okay, Darwinian evolution gave rise to Mao and Stalin and all these other communist despots and thugs of the last 200 years, okay? But if you go back in history, if you think about it, every tyrant of history, okay, Alexander, many of the pharaohs, okay, Nineveh, the Mongols, okay, Genghis Khan, these sorts of people, okay, Nero in Rome or whoever, they were all just cold-blooded, bloodthirsty psychopaths and murderers, okay? Many of the popes of the so-called Christian Catholic Church, okay, that ran Europe for around 1,000 years, okay? What God is saying is, I'm looking at this is all culminating in this Mystery Babylon, this whore of Babylon, okay? And I'm saying that no other nation encapsulates all of it, captures all of it, none other than the United States, okay? Between our wars, our warmongering, okay, our funding and founding of Hitler, Mao, and Stalin, okay, the abortion, okay, the eugenics, the radical environmentalism, okay, the spreading of just depression, okay, with our loan sharking operation known as the Federal Reserve / IMF, the International Monetary Fund, those loan sharkers, okay. This is it, okay, and I'm not. This is not my country, okay. I'm not one of these radicals that's going to sit down at the national anthem. I'm not saying that, okay. What I'm saying is this nation has been taken over from within. What exists right now is Mystery Babylon, okay. This isn't my country, okay. I consider what this entity with its image of the beast running it as the Federal Reserve Corporation and its army, its transgender army of Obama freaks was what it's becoming, its mercenary army. Okay. But that's the language here. And that'll, there's a lot more detail here. Okay, I fill in a lot of the blanks. All right, talk about, there's a little image here of Pythagoras playing the flute. Okay, it gets into, and that goes all the way back to, we discussed that, a couple months ago, and that'll be on the YouTube channel about, the Great Pyramid of Giza and the numerical wonder, okay? That is the Great Pyramid of Giza, okay? We get numerical pi, we get the golden ratio, okay? The alignments, okay? The measurements, okay? The distance, the diameter of the earth, the distance to the sun, and the Egyptian cubit, and squaring the circle, okay? And I don't want to go off on that right now. We're trying to wrap it up here, but, you can read all about that. Let me just go back to the, I'm not even sure what page it's on the table of contents. If you go on to the, oh boy, the occultism of numbers. Okay. I have to really go back in and look at this, but if you go back in and you're so interested, well, I know where it is. It's on the Robert Christian page. Okay, page 10. And if you go all the way to the bottom of that, okay, it talks about that. There's a link on there called "It's in the Numbers." Okay, it's 44 pages. It's a book by itself. I'm just very briefly going over it, but it goes in and it talks about in a very simple sense. Okay, there's books. This is 44 pages, but it's only a snapshot. Okay, of one so-called ancient monument, the Great Pyramid of Giza. And these pyramids, you got the Stonehenge, and up there in England, and Karnak stones in France, and whatever the ancient aliens talk about, Quetzalcoatl, his pyramids over there, the Aztecs in Central America and Easter Islands, and there's these monuments all over the world. Okay, and what I'm doing here is I just focus on ancient Egypt and the Great Pyramid. Okay, and the mathematical wonder. Okay, that is the Great Pyramid of Giza. Now, it just so happens to be that another name for Apollo, Osiris, or Nimrod, or the god of the Freemasons. Remember, the merchants of the earth. Okay, the craftsmen. Another name for their god is the great architect of the universe. Okay, so think about that. The great architect or the great geometer of the universe. And then the G, the Freemasons. If you go by, you see signs on the side of the road, the Freemasons, to see the G on it. Okay, many are low-level Freemasons, and I'm not, these are guys that are joining there for a social club. But be that as it may, when you see the G on it, you see the Freemason sign, on the side of the road, you see it in almost every town. That G stands for geometry. Okay. Or great architect of the universe, or Gnosticism. Okay, the Gnostics. Okay, the mankind can become God, or man is one and same with God, which is antithetical to the to the New Testament. No matter what this idiot Dan Brown or his Da Vinci Code nonsense has to say. Okay, mankind does not become God. That's not how it works. Okay, not without the Son of God. That is. Okay. We can't just become God on our own. I mean, think about how stupid that is. I mean, Hitler thought he was God. Okay, we saw where that got us. Okay, but anyway, that's that link. And again, that's on the bottom of the Robert Christian page. And, and there's 13 chapters, sub-chapters to that page. And I'd say each one of those sub-chapters is a book in and of itself. And I just don't have the time or the monetary resources to publish everything that I write. Okay, so a lot of the stuff is just on there for information, and it's there for free. But the two books, again, that are The Un-American Genocidal Complex and Pleased to Meet You, okay, this one right here, which ties a lot of the stuff together. Okay, I admit maybe some of the stuff is hard to follow, and it doesn't ultimately. You get to a point where it stops making sense. Okay, the only way to make sense of it is to realize that the people running the world are shot. Okay, they're gone. They're dark. The light is out. Okay, they're just psychopaths. They're insatiable, power-hungry, power-mad psychopaths that worship the devil. Okay, that's really how you explain all this. Okay, ultimately, okay, it doesn't make sense. Okay, even a lot of these economic experts and guys that I listen to, saying, oh, the bankers, they're trying to save the petrodollar, and they're mad at Syria for turning down this gas pipeline between Iraq and Turkey, whatever it is. Yeah, it's all well and good, but it doesn't make any sense. I mean, you're trying to save a system that's on the verge of an economic collapse of calamitous proportions, and you're going to try and save it with a gas pipeline or a petrodollar, and you're going to push World War III with Russia. I mean, what are these guys supposed to do? With all this wealth that they're trying to maintain when the entire world is a parking lot. Okay, a post-nuclear war parking lot. It doesn't make any sense, okay? This will be the segue, I guess, into the next show, and we'll get into the occult conspiracy, where I'm saying, without a doubt, that these psychopaths, they want war. Okay, they've always wanted war. Okay? Again, it's getting back to, the blood of all the saints and of everybody that's been murdered. Okay, is on these guys' hands. Okay, is what the end of Revelation 18 is saying. So, for example, you look at World War One. Okay, the First World War that we're going to talk about, it made no sense. It makes no historical sense. Many of the United States, the nation of the United States, there's a lot of German immigrants. We had no problem. We had no business. We had no issue with Germany. Okay, but then along comes the Federal Reserve System. Okay, and their little pawn, their little bootlicker. Okay, the Queen Jezebel favorite, the Hillary favorite, Woodrow Wilson, gave us the Federal Reserve, the IRS, and the so-called Great War, World War One. Okay, he sends this floating ammunition dump, this cargo ship known as the Lusitania, okay, where the Germans warned not to send and told the American passengers in newspaper ads and throughout the country, saying, don't get on this thing. They'll say, if you get on this thing, you're going to die because you're sending, it's not a cruise ship, you're sending weapons to England. Okay. So, of course, what happens, the thing gets torpedoed, and Woodrow Wilson, the liar, the lowlife Woodrow Wilson, that was the excuse to get us involved in World War One. There was no really compelling reason to get us involved in that stalemate. Okay, the trench warfare, the gas. Okay, the living hell that was World War One. But what did it do? It made a hell of a lot of money for J.P. Morgan and John D. Rockefeller and the Federal Reserve boys. Okay, and served as the setup for World War II. And the un-American genocidal complex. Okay. So, playtime history, okay, the nonsense you learned in public school is over. Okay, it's time to really put, facts out on what really happened and then what really is going to happen. Okay. And we'll just conclude with that. Don't forget God's simple salvation plan is the most important thing, out of this whole mess. And that link is, at the top of the website. Okay. Come out of for my people. Okay. I strongly suggest, if you're listening right now, that you take God up on that. Okay. Boxofsunglasses.com. Email info@boxofsunglasses.com. Twitter, Rob Roselli. And, of course, the Facebook and the YouTube channel are posted on the homepage. So everything is kind of linked in there. Good night and God bless.